We're going to do a little natural edge bowl without any bark on it. This is a piece of, I think, sycamore side grain. So half a log, cut down the middle. So this is, like I said, this is a piece of sycamore side grain. The bark was falling off, so I peeled some of it off. Just a small piece. I rounded out on the, this obviously chainsaw cut to split the log, and I just rounded it out on the bandsaw, and it's kind of lumpy, so it's going to be could be kind of interesting natural edge bowl without any bark. And you know, some of these natural edge bowls, depending on the type of wood, the bark won't stay on anyway, so you just peel it off and leave the edge. And sometimes what I'll do with that edge, depending on how it looks, I'll take a wire wheel and work on the actual edge. So we're going to start this using a woodworm screw, which comes with, at least I think it comes with every chuck. Every chuck I've bought, it came with. You know, different manufacturers have, you know, slightly different drill bit size. And depending on how hard the wood is, you want to, you know, bring the size, you know, vary the size of the drill bit. So I'm going to start with a 25/64 drill bit and drill a hole in about the center of this thing. Right about there. Looks pretty darn close. All right, now this woodworm, of course, those of you that have used them know that this just goes in the chuck. Bring that up a little closer. Make sure you get it all the way in. There's a groove in it, right there. The jaws actually lock into that groove. So you got to pay attention when you're putting this thing in, and you get it in the right position in and out of the chuck. Okay, and obviously you're not going to be able to tighten it too tight because it's steel and it's not going to compress at all. So, and what we'll do is bring this up, and it's also a good idea to put a little wax on the threads. You want to run that up. I'm going to lock my spindle. So you want to run that up until it bottoms out against the jaws. I've seen where, I don't know this for 100% fact, but so that's up against the jaws now. And obviously go up until you hit, give it a little snug. Don't overdo it or you might strip the threads. And especially if you drilled it a hole too big. So then what we're going to do is we're going to bring our tailstock up. always a good idea to use your tailstock whenever you can for extra support. Just makes it a lot safer. And we'll start shaping the bottom. Obviously, this is going to be the bottom of the bowl over here. Okay. So we'll start shaping that. Unlock my spindle, check my clearance. I like to set my tool rest at about a 45-degree angle to the work because I'm going to be forming the bottom.
Ralph,
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to move a little bit.
Yes, is that better?
You cannot see the whole piece.
Yeah, I raised this camera up from the last time a little bit, 6 inches, but may not be enough. I may have to raise it some more next time, get a little better view. Put on our safety gear.
Ralph, highlight yourself.
Isn't it spotlighted?
Spotlighted, is it? I'm just reminding.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Yes, I wrote myself a note. So, okay. So, and what I'm going to be using is my 5/8 bowl gouge. And I grind mine with a long grind, and on this one I cut the heel back a little bit there. Get some eye protection on. I'm running about just under 800 RPM. So let's see how that works out. Actually, with this thing being side grain, we can come the other way.
Much easier. You're not banging yourself, not really struggling.
What's that?
Said it's much easier that way. You're not struggling and hitting a lot of air.
Well, yeah, on here we're round, but as far as the grain orientation, of course, on a side grain bowl, half the time you're cutting the wrong way anyway. So move our tool rest a little closer. You want to keep it fairly close. And we'll keep forming this bottom. give you another view here and see how that looks. Another angle. So I think what I'm going to do on this one here, this is a small bowl. We're going to use a recess, a mortise in the bottom. And okay, got to finish that up a little bit more. Take a little more off the bottom there. We get not quite down to where we need to be. Yep, a little more. Interesting. I'm using a pull cut, obviously. I'm just using the wing of the gouge. And if you stand that thing up a little bit, to where you get curly shavings coming off like you do when you're using a plane running on an angle. It's a slicing cut. You get a very good finish right off the tool. I mean, you can start on this here. You can, with depending on the wood and how good sharp your tools are. You can start sanding on this here. I can start sanding at 220 and be done with it. Like curly fries.
Dave Friendlich told me he starts sanding at 400, but I don't know if I believe him.
Okay. One little, I don't know what the heck got into that piece of wood. I wonder if there's bugs in this thing.
They are, they're confused.
Well, it's been in my shop for a few years, so
Keep your mouth closed, Ralph.
Huh?
Keep your mouth closed.
Yeah. I got my mask on. We can just run right on around the corner and stand that thing up. You see, I'm dropping that handle, coming down the side. You can see those shavings coming off like little, almost like pasta twists or whatever you call them.
When the shavings look like that, you know you're doing real good.
Yep. Okay. So now we're going to have to come on up. So I'm going to move the tool rest. We've got to bring this up. So we're going to lose diameter. Depending on the shape of the bowl, we've got to get all the way up to this point here. Okay. On this and on here, we got to get all the way to this point here where all this disappears, becomes round. Check your clearance when you move your tool rest. And on a cut like this, when you're going towards its headstock, coming up the bowl from the bottom to the top, this is where it really helps to be able to turn what we call left-handed, with the handle of the tool in your left hand, instead of pulling, instead of doing a pull cut right-handed and throwing all those shavings in your face, you can turn around and do a push cut and throw the shavings over on all your stuff over in the corner of the shop. Now up here, like Dave Piper said earlier, we're cutting air now because we're up over the I guess the radius of the tree. So we got a little more to go. And this is where, as you're cutting, as I mentioned, you're part of the time you're cutting the wrong way. Okay, against the grain, which you'll see here in a second. I don't know if you can see right here on this side, I'm getting some torn grain because of course the piece is coming this way and this is on the edge and it's end grain. So you kind of gotta play with it and try, depending on the angle of your tool, and some wood, depending on no matter what you do, that stuff's going to chip out anyway. And that's where you get the 60 grit gouge out. So or you just throw the piece of wood away and get a better piece of wood, depending on what it is. So, all right, let me take a little bit more here. Let's see what we got. All right, we got to take a little bit more. I'm going to speed it up just a hair. I'm going to stand this tool up and see if we can't clean that, make a clean cut across there. You got to slow your feed down too. Your how fast you're moving your tool helps to keep it clean, give you a cleaner cut. Light cut. See what we got. One more pass. Can you guys see that tool at all?
Yeah, we see it. Do you mean all the way to the end?
It spends a lot of time hiding under the pasta.
Under the who?
All that pasta he's making with the long curly streamer.
Curly fries.
Curly fries. You know, it's amazing that a little piece of wood like this, you know, where did all this crap come from? It must expand. I mean, the whole floor is covered over here, and I only took a little bit of wood off this thing. So, all right. So now let me get the bottom to where we can turn it around and chuck it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to dish this bottom a little bit, and then we'll put a mortise in there so that it will sit on this rim here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this tailstock out of the way. I'm going to take my live center out so I don't jam it my elbow on it. Knock this down. And then we'll drill a mortise hole in there with a Forstner bit, or you can cut it with a gouge if you want. Drill chuck in there. Using a 2-inch or 2 1/8 inch Forstner bit. We're going to slow the speed down. About 300. If your lathe won't go slower than that, go as slow as your lathe will go when you're drilling, especially when you're drilling big holes like this.
You know, just a little tip here, Ralph, not in this case, but whenever I use a mortise bit, like to drill a hole in a bowl to get in a little deeper, I keep a little chunk of carnauba wax and put it on the Forstner bit. That makes it go in a lot easier.
Well, if you sharpen those bits, they'll go in easy too.
That's true too, but if it's wet wood, you still get that squeaking either way.
Well, yeah, I use a little bit of candle wax sometimes on them, especially if you're drilling deeper. Now, obviously, we're going to only need to go 3/16 to a quarter here, but if you're drilling a big hole, when you back it out to clear your shavings, I put a little candle wax on the bit. Give it a little lubrication and stop that squeaking noise. So we'll get that out of the way. And what we want to do, this is one of the reasons I like doing a lot of these bowls with a mortise like this, is because you can actually finish this bottom before you turn it around and you're done with it. You don't have to come back. And after you've hollowed out the inside of the bowl, you don't have to come back and clean up the bottom. It's already done for you. So get rid of this little nubbin in there. And I'm going to switch to a smaller gouge, a bowl gouge, 1/4 inch bowl gouge. 1/4 inch or 3/8. It's actually, depending on if you're here or there, here we go by the bar size of the steel. So this is actually 3/8. And over on the other side of the ocean, they go by the width of the flute. So they call over there in England and wherever they call it a 1/4 inch gouge. Here we call it a 3/8 gouge. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because this is a demo. You know, obviously, if I was doing this for a finished bowl to sell or to keep myself, you know, I would sand it in there. And then what I like to do is put a couple of lines, 1 or 2 lines in there. Gives you a place to write your name and write this kind of wood. So, you know, you can use various tools. This is that Cindy Drozda type vortex tool. Kind of almost like a gouge with no flute. Okay, you can also use a really thin parting tool. You know, most of you guys have seen this before. This is just a Sawzall blade that I've ground all the teeth off, and I actually finally put a handle on it. So, and then depending on your jaws of your chuck, if you've got dovetailed jaws, I believe most of the manufacturers are, I think, 70-something, 77 degrees maybe. And I saw this on a Glenn Lucas video to where the skew, the angle of the skew, okay, matched the jaws. So what he did was he came in with the skew flat to the bottom of the bowl, and of course this being angled, you just kind of push it in there, very light cut, take a teeny bit, and now you've got a dovetail for your jaws. So, you know, do your sanding. You can put finish on this if you want, depending on what kind of finish you're doing. Go ahead and put your finish on here. And that way, like I said, you're finished with this. Write your name. You're finished with the bottom. So what we're going to do now is pop this off of here. And turn it around. With that wax, it comes right off most of the time. So, now it just pops right on there. And when you're doing side grain, especially, you got to be careful that you don't over tighten. You want to obviously tight enough to where it doesn't come flying off, but you got to also leave enough meat on the bottom of the bowl. Okay, from here to there, to where you don't split the bowl in half by over tightening it, because you're expanding out, you're putting pressure outward on it. You want to make sure you're seated up flat on the face of the jaws. And then we'll just to make sure, we'll just true it one little pass on the outside here. True it up. Okay. Now we'll go to hollowing this thing out. Now this piece of wood has a kind of a, you can see that right there. It's kind of, I guess where the limb was coming out, it's kind of a cool feature. So we may even leave that. You know, this is a matter of personal choice. Some people will go in here and drill a hole, give you a, you know, you can measure, drill to your depth of your finished depth, and it gives you a place to, a hole to work to, which does make it easier, because when you're taking this, hollowing these bowls out without a pilot hole, it has a tendency to have that little nipple in the bottom, which can give you aggravation. So I'll go ahead and drill a hole. And you can, you know, drill it. You put a drill bit in your drill chuck, or I finally went ahead and bought a drill bit with a number 2 Morris taper on it. It goes directly in the tailstock. Just slap it in there. And what we're going to do is take a quick measurement, an eyeball measurement. So, all right, so it's about, all right, so we go about 3 inches deep.
So you also subtracted the height of the mortise, right? The depth?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to, you know, eyeball that. Hopefully you got good eyes. And you want to measure from the point of the drill, which is the deepest point. You know, you can cut it a little shy if you want. So we'd make it like 2 7/8. Put a little piece of tape on there so you know where you're at. Bring your speed back down. Oh, didn't slap her in hard enough. There we go. There are your chips. The last thing you want to do is keep grinding this thing in there and get it loaded up where it binds up and freezes in there. Especially with wet wood. Because as you're drilling wet wood, it's heating up and it's expanding. So now we've got our pilot hole. Bring our tool rest around. And I'm going to switch to a bigger tool rest. Well, I can just lay it up there and go. Want your tool rest a little below center. Check your clearance. Lock her down, bring her speed back up. periodically you want to check your chuck tightness, especially if you're using wet wood. This is dry, so I'm not too worried about it, but whenever you're using, working with wet wood, you want to check it periodically because the wood, as it loses moisture, it moves, and it can, shrink and lose a grip. So check our clearance. We're good there. And we just hollow her out. Now I'm running my gouge. If you can see the angle. I'm not straight up, obviously. I've rolled my flute at about a 45-degree angle in the direction of the cut. And what you want to try and do, you want to ride your bevel, bevel contact. So as you're coming around, you want to keep your tool perpendicular to the wall of your bowl. So you've got to swing the tool coming in, and as you're coming around, you've got to swing that tool. I don't know if you can see that motion. Now, you hear all that racket you're hearing. I'm taking a lot of wood at once. Probably cutting off, I don't know, close to a quarter of an inch or more of wood at one time. So we'll take a smaller cut. Now we want to look, depending on, how thick we want to make our walls, and depending on the shape of the log and your outside shape, you're going to have some variation. The walls are going to be thinner on the ends than they are here, more surface here because of the roll of the log. So, you got to kind of look at the scale of the bowl and figure out how thick you want to make the bowl. If you want to make it heavy or thin, some of these, you can make these things less than a quarter-inch thick if you've got nice wood, stable wood. Natural edge bowls, normally I do them turned once. A lot of people turn bowls. They do what we call twice turn bowls. You take a green piece of wood and turn it green to shape, and you leave it, I forget what the percentage is, but you leave it, fairly thick. Say if you want your finished wall at like a half an inch, you leave your bowl, depending on the diameter or the size of the bowl, you leave your bowl, say, 3/4 to an inch thick. It also depends on the kind of wood too. Some wood's a lot more stable than others. And then let the thing dry. I put them in a paper bag. Some people put them in a paper bag and they put the shavings, pack them all in there and then let it sit. What you can do is you can weigh it and then come back in a week or 2 weeks, weigh it again, and then come back in a week and weigh it again. When it stops losing weight, then you know it's as dry as it's going to get. Okay, it's lost all the moisture it's going to lose for the climate that it's in. Most of the time on the natural edge bowl, I like to just turn them to finish. And if they warp, they warp. If they, it just adds the feature to the bowl. And also, mahogany that we use a lot for these is very stable wood, so it doesn't move very much. So you can turn that thing to finished thickness, and you can barely tell if it's moved. If you do try and do this with a piece of oak, turn side grain to live oak that we have down here, if you turn that thing, you better turn it to finish in one shot, because if you don't leave it like 1.5 inches thick, it'll turn into a football, and then you won't have any. If you don't leave enough meat on there to turn it the second time, you'll turn away the one side, and the other side will still be 1/2 inch thick. So just something to think about.
Hey, Ralph, just something if I can add to that. I turn it exactly the way you said it. I like turn it wet, put it in a paper bag, and weigh it every week. But I found that I've been using newspaper, and newspaper really soaks up the moisture, because within a week that newspaper is really wet. You can tell the difference.
Really?
Yeah, it's just always throw the newspaper away and put some more in it. But it usually takes a month, but that really gets the moisture more than the shavings do.
Okay. Well, yeah, the shavings are wet if you're using shavings off the bowl. So yeah, definitely. Depending on the climate too. Some people, with a really dry climate, they want to slow it down drying. They don't want it to dry too fast because a lot of them will crack. So yeah, there's different ways to do it. You want to use a paper bag though instead of a plastic bag, because plastic bag is not going to, it's going to hold the moisture, and you stand a chance of getting some mold going on in there. So there's all different kinds of ways to do it. So let's carry on with this. Okay, I could have drilled it a little deeper. Obviously, the bottom's pretty thick on this. The whole thing's fairly thick. When you start getting in there deeper, sometimes it's hard because of the cutting air. Okay, because you're cutting wood here when you're at towards the outside, but as it comes around, your gouge is out here. You're cutting wood, and now you're cutting air, and a little bit of wood, and it can get a little, that's why you hear that jumping and chattering. When I get them fairly close to where I want, what I'd normally do is I'll cut the other way. I'll cut from the inside out with a pull cut, which I've got a fair amount of control over, and I'll use this long wing of the gouge. Okay, and that's one of the reasons I have these gouges ground with these long wings, so I can roll this thing over and pull it and get a fairly good smooth finish. Okay. You want to stop and, feel it periodically. On a small bowl like this, you can, pretty much gauge it with your fingers, or you could get out your, if I can reach them here. Got these big calipers. Okay. Figure 8 calipers. So you can, whatever the thickness is here, it shows you here on this end. Okay, so it tells you that your wall thickness is about a thumb width. So, probably about close to an inch. Okay, about 7/8 of an inch thickness on there. And then you can also bring these things around and sort of measure the bottom. There's several ways of measuring the bottom. In a small bowl like this, you can use a caliper. And this is showing at the outside of the rim where it's the thickest. We're a little over an inch thick, but you've also got to take into consideration that you've got that recess in there, your mortise. So in the middle, you're not quite as thick. So unless you want to make a funnel, pay attention to your thickness on the bottom. We'll take a few more passes here. Now you can see since I've run out of the hole, that pilot hole, now I've got a flat bottom. So when you get to the very center is where you've got to raise the handle and get that point down and just cut that nub off. So you don't leave a nipple in there sticking up. And then we'll come back and pull cut on these wings on the rim. Now, something else you've also got to be careful of when you're doing that pull cut coming up the side of the bowl, okay, is you got to pay attention to how much of this cutting edge you've got engaged. Because if you get too much of it, if you pull it out and you end up with this whole thing, it can possibly snag on you and get a nice catch. And depending on how much material you got left on your bowl, you could end up with firewood. So you got to, pay attention to your tool angle and your cutting angle. I think for demonstration purposes, this is pretty much done. Now, once I get it my final shape and get it smoothed out, you want to run your fingers in there and see, because I got some ripples here, right here, and I got a ripple on the bottom. So you want to clean those up. And sometimes you got to take a light cut, hit the high spots. But what happens a lot if you got too much pressure on your tool, all you do is follow the ripples that are there, and you just keep, you're not getting rid of them. You're just making them the same or making them worse. So you got to take a really light cut where you hit the high spots only. I've seen some guys where they'll take, I don't have any to show you. But they'll take chalk, okay? Or sometimes I'll take a pencil and I'll run it in there lightly and it'll mark all the high spots, and then you can see what you got to cut out, okay? Because sometimes just trying to feel it, it gets a little tricky, okay? Now on an end grain or side grain bowl like this, side grain, okay, over here on this corner, right in this corner here, and on the opposite side, so here and here, because you're cutting across end grain, you're going to have some tear out possibly. Some woods are much worse than others. And, that's a matter of sometimes sharpen your tool, okay? Raise your speed a little bit, as long as you're within a safe speed limit for the size of the wood that you're working with and the type of wood you're working with. Sometimes it can't be avoided, okay? And then it's just, unfortunately, sandpaper time. So at this point, what I would do now is I would get out my handy dandy. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to show you the tool. Okay. I've got an angle drill. Okay. And I've got the Ken Riz's Rolox system that I bought, which I think is great.
Ken's actually got the green sandpaper for the Rolox system on sale.
Does he now?
Yep, for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah,
so it's up to St. Patrick's Day.
I got some green from Craft Supply, and then when I got the setup from Ken, I bought the purple stuff, which seems to cut pretty damn good. So these are the pads. They've got called a Rolox system. It's a little thread on there. Okay, and what's really nice is when you buy the system, I forget how many of these you get a bunch of these pads. So you put your sandpaper on there and mark, of course, what grid it is.
Yeah, I was watching that.
And then So to change grits, you just pop that on there and sand. Now, obviously with a bowl like this, with these wings, you got to be careful. Okay. Sanding. You got to know how to hold your mouth right to make it work, but you can sand these pretty well. If these are real sticking out, then of course what you got to do is just stop the lathe and just sand that one section, and then kind of blend it. Down in here, you can run the lathe and blend it in, okay? And then when you go to change grits, you just pop that off, put the next one on, okay? Instead of peeling your paper off all the time, which causes a Velcro on your pads, on your backing pads, to not last as long. And then, of course, when the Velcro goes, then the paper starts flying off, and then you get really mad. So, nobody likes sanding to start with, so you might as well make it easy. So I highly recommend that system.
And the nice thing about that system also is he gives you repair kits.
Yes.
So if the Velcro wears out, you can just slice it off and put on a new one.
Right. Yeah, he's got repair kits for it, and plus he has some extra soft pads to go over, for doing weird contours. I'll go ahead and put a link when I send the video of this out. I'll put a link to his website. He's got those drills too. That drill I've got is a Milwaukee drill that I bought probably 16 years ago at least. And right now the Milwaukee, they've changed the configuration of the Milwaukee, which I'm not thrilled with the new configuration of the new drill. And I think the damn thing is about $150, where Ken's got a copy of this Milwaukee. There are several manufacturers make them, but he's got it. He's got one for sale that's quite reasonable, reasonable cost. So we'll send out a link to his website. And then I was saying, I also do depending on how this rim finishes out, I'll take let me just step over here. I think I got it right over here. I'll either take a wire wheel, this one's wore out, a little wire wheel on a drill, okay, and hit this rim. Or I've got this bristle brush that has some abrasive in it, which kind of does the same thing. It's just not as aggressive as a wire wheel. So, or you could take a wire brush by hand. You could do all kinds of stuff. I've seen some guys where you can take a drill with random bits and just put a little dimple here and there, or you can do it with a Dremel, and some guys actually burn them with a burner. So you've got, different features. So, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this. And then depending on what kind of finish you want to put on it, there's the old saying, SSS, shiny stuff sells. I'm not a big fan of shiny wood bowls, but, for some reason people buy them. So, you can use lacquer, you can use poly. I personally don't have real good luck with wipe on poly. Some of you guys, get some fantastic looking finishes with it. I know Joe Self turns out a really nice poly bowl, and Dave Piper's got some that are really nice finish on them, and Gary Venema too. I can't seem to get them right, so maybe it's just the way I'm holding my mouth. I don't know, but so that pretty much does it for this demonstration. Yeah, you can see that tear out right there. And then when you bring it around to the other side, it's in the same, it's the opposite corners because that's where the end grain comes across. So, and there's the bottom.
Great demo, Ralph.
So that's that. So. So, anybody got questions?
Too many to ask.
Too many to ask?
Yeah.
Well,
no. When you mentioned the left hand position, right, with your right hand on the front and your left hand on the handle. Well, because I'm a lefty. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, you are? You're left-handed?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. You'll be a good wood turner. I'm left-handed also, but I because of my work and just because of the way I am, I'm actually pretty much ambidextrous.
Me too, same thing.
Left, people call left-hand turning when you hold the tool. I'm going to go back to Spotlight here. Okay, and we'll switch cameras again. Let's see how this one works. So, right-handed is, of course, holding the tool in your right hand, the tool handle in your right hand, mm-hmm. and the front of the tool on the tool rest with your left hand, okay? And that's right-handed turning, okay? Obviously, left-handed is the opposite. So you hold the tool in your left hand and have your right hand up on the tool rest doing the, the support and guiding. It helps, and I tell people, any new people, that they should try, obviously the majority of people are right-handed, and I tell them that they should try and learn how to, turn with both hands, because it makes it much easier. There's certain things that you're turning to where your body gets in the way. So if you switch hands, it's much easier to move the tool in the direction you want to move it. It just makes it so much easier. Some people, I know some people that cannot do anything with their left hand, just like I know some left-handed people that cannot do anything with their right hand. But it seems, in my experience, left-handed people are more apt to be able to use their right hand. I think it's just because the majority of things, when you're talking about tools and equipment, are manufactured to be operated right-handed. I mean, think about a drill press. The lever's on the right side. You pull it down with your right hand. Circular saws, most of them are set up to where you use your right hand. Chainsaws, the same thing. They're set up to be operated with the right hand on the trigger in control. So, most left-handed people, because you're used to using those kind of tools, they adapt and, are able to use them. So, but it helps to be able to turn in both ways. It just makes it a lot easier to be able to
Hey,
switch
Ralph,
back and forth.
I am severely right-handed, but I spend a great deal of time turning left-handed, and it's not that difficult to make the transition. All what I have to do is I pay attention to how I'm moving the tool with what I'm doing with my right hand, but it's just, if you're paying attention to what the tool is doing, it doesn't make that much difference which hand you've got on the hand.
That's true. And it's all about the tool control,
Yeah.
And that the tool control is very, sharp tools and tool control, eliminates a whole lot of sandpaper. So, and high-speed steel tools eliminate a whole lot of sandpaper too. I don't know how many carbide guys we have here, but you see it on Facebook all the time on the wood turning sites. The guys, I got carbide tools. Carbide tools are so wonderful. And then a half a dozen guys chime in and said, yeah, when you buy those carbide tools, make sure you set aside a bunch of money for sandpaper. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it on left-handed and right-handed turning.
Okay. I have lots of other questions, but they are about equipment and the right tools to buy, good brands, bad brands. Because for now I'm woodworking, wood turning only on my head. I still need everything. So
Okay.
probably I'm gonna write you an email with
All right. If you're talking about cutting tools,
yes.
Thompson lathe tools. Look at the website and just look and read him, and look at his YouTube thing on sharpening.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the YouTube is a wonderful thing. In most ways, the problem with some YouTube is there's also a lot of bad information out there, and a lot of people doing a lot of stupid stuff. And the same thing with Facebook on the wood turning. I'm on 3 different wood turning pages on Facebook, and I just break out laughing when I hear some of the stuff people put on there, and I'm like, really? I'm surprised you're still alive. So with some of the stupid stuff people do, but anyway. Yeah, send me an email, and I'd be happy to, give you information, and get you. The problem, a lot of people when they get first started, and they want to buy every tool in the catalog, and then you end up after a few years realizing that I've got 20 tools here and I only use 5 of them most of the time. So I've got a bunch of tools, but what I've also got is I've got duplicates. So I've got several bowl gouges pretty much the same size and sharpened the same angles, so that one gets dull, I can just pick up the next one and keep going. That way you sharpen all your tools in the morning, and then you go to work. And then if the tool gets dull, you pick up another tool and keep working. And then, that's just one way to do it. And that's another thing that people don't know, or don't they get lazy and they don't sharpen often enough. Okay, like this little bowl here, that gouge that needs to be sharpened already. Okay, it's not cutting when by the time I got to the end of where I'm at with this thing here. Okay, I'm not. It's not cutting as well as it was when I first started, and so it's time to stop and sharpen the tool, or pick up another sharp tool. So, and you know, sharpening, that's a whole nother game that you know is very, very, very important. And you know, some people say, "Oh, I gotta buy carbide. That way, I don't have to buy any sharpening equipment." Well, okay, fine. Then you know, buy carbide and buy lots of sandpaper. Spend lots of time sanding, and you still can't do certain things with carbide because of the shape and the design of the tool that you can do with a regular high-speed steel tool. So, you know, there is a place for carbide. I don't have any myself, but there is a use for them. You know, a lot of the guys that turn resin, you know, carbide's great for resin because it doesn't dull out as quick as the high-speed steel. You know, and resin can be very abrasive on your tools, and there's certain woods that are very abrasive. So for roughing out, you know, roughing certain things out, you know, carbide's good for that. You know, you're just hogging out a bunch of wood and you don't care about the finish on it. And once you get it roughed out and roughed down to a reasonable shape, then come back with your high-speed steel tools and put a nice finish cut on it. And then you reduce your sanding considerably. So.
And Ramon, I think I heard you, what I understood from you, you were also looking at the tools as far as equipment, maybe to get. We have been assembling a list of who's got what tools, because most everybody in the guild is willing to help a new turner or another turner. So we share that among the members of the guild. So, you know, you can see and you can actually go out and try different tools and see if that's what you want. Because there's a wide variety of lathes and sanders and whatnots that you could buy, and green milling machine or dough mixers like the one behind Ralph.
Yeah.
So that list I will be actually dispersing among the guild later, probably this weekend. I just have to add a couple. So if anybody's got anything they want to add, please let me know. But we've got that. It's one of the advantages of being in the guild. Yeah.
Make a big cake.
Yeah, that was something that he used to do in our workshops, right? That we used to borrow some tools from the others and try some new stuff that now, unfortunately, we don't have the workshop. So, but I love the idea of the list, David, so we could borrow something.
And also so that you can know what equipment they have. Like I have 2 lathes here at home. Not that I've got my son's and mine, and then I got sanders and joiners and whatnots. And I know our friend Mike Chrysler's got a great setup over there, and he's helped me out a bunch of times. And that's the whole purpose, so we can all get better at this.
And lathe brands, do you have any tips? I mean, I saw this Rocky, Raycon, yes. Is it a good brand?
Yeah, that's a good machine.
Okay.
The club owns one. We have a 12-inch one. You know, it's. I tell people to buy the biggest lathe that you can afford. Try and stay with a brand name. You know, a lot of people say, well, I'm only going to turn little things. And then once they get into it, it's like, damn, now I want to turn something big. So you know, if you've got the room and you can afford it, I mean, you can turn little bitty things on big lathes. Okay. But you know, little lathes can't turn big things. So, you know, it's, you know, it's all a matter of how much space you've got and, you know, how much
And that's
money.
where that,
Money.
right, that's where that list really comes in, because you can kind of do your research and then see who's got it within the guild and maybe say, hey, can I come over and, you know, you show me how that works and try it out and see if it's what you like. If
Yeah.
it's gonna fit your budget and your space.
Yeah.
Ramon, where are you from?
Brazil.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
You knew it.
And you are from?
Brazil.
Você também é brasileiro? Então, okay.
Bem-vindo. Welcome.
Good.
You are in good hands. These guys are the best. They help everybody a lot. So
Yeah, I saw some of the videos that you guys posted on the website before I asked Ralph to join this one. And
Where do you live in Miami?
Not in Miami. I live in Broward, Coral Springs, North.
Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, but that does not mean that now and then, after this pandemic is gone, that we will meet in person, I'm sure. By the way, about the vaccine, you guys were talking in the beginning. Jackson is vaccinating any adult with, as long as you have one of the preconditions, right? Morbidities like obesity, pressure, cardio problems with the heart, problems, and so on. And the U-Health in Miami University also, but the U-Health division, if you are a patient of U-Health, it doesn't matter if you have a precondition or not, they will vaccinate you. Okay, I've been there to the U-Health tent in Miami, got vaccinated. I'm going for my second dose on the 19th. So it works, just in case any of you is a patient there. Right? But coming back to the to the wood turning, wow, I have a lot to learn. But what Ralph said about buying tools, I learned my lesson because I do some furniture just for use here at home. But there is I had the issue of having tools that I've never used, right? So I know what you.
I have some of those.
Yeah, me too. So I know what you mean, and that's why I want to refine, because it's an investment.
Yeah, what you want to do is do not buy a set of 8 turning tools. What you want to do is kind of figure out what you're doing, buy the best tools that you can afford each time. Like the new high-speed steel stuff. You want to get a couple good gouges, things like that, and buy tools as you see that you need them. And that way you won't have a drawer full of things that you don't use.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I learned my lesson on that one. Okay, thank you.
And we all have.
No, yeah, I'm sure.
So, anybody got any stuff, any work they want to show that they've been working on? Well, jump right out there. Let's see it.
All right. 2 things. You had mentioned about turning rough bowls. Years ago, at one of the demonstrations, I turned a bowl. And I don't know if everybody can kind of see this. Let me look and see if I can, so I can see what I'm doing. Where's my cursor? Where am I? I got to find me again. Where am I? I'm gone somewhere. You guys are going to have to help me because no.
All right.
There I am. Okay.
Stay there.
If you notice this, here and here is less than here and here. And it's changed so much that I'm never going to be able to turn this round, so I have to do something with it. It's one of those bowls I never got to and finished up, and we roughed it out, and I didn't leave enough meat on there, enough wood, so that I can turn those. So anyway, that's just an example of what not to do. Now,
well, you just sand it and finish it and be done with it.
oh yeah, I'm going to do something like that. Now, Paula, we talked about projects. This is going to be a little bit harder. Where's the picture? I lost me again.
We see you. You got to raise it up, David.
Okay. Well, if you can see here, it's a bowl full of eggs.
Oh, eggs for Eastern.
Easter, or just honest to gosh, you put a bowl full of eggs in your house, and everybody that comes in will start playing with them. Now, what I do is when I'm cutting up wood and stuff like that. Now, this is just, you can see it says egg. I cut a square or blank, and this is nothing more than landscape timber.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll cut it in square.
Okay.
If I feel like I don't have a lot of time, I'll turn it into a round.
Okay.
And I have these laying around in the shop all over. Whenever I'm cutting scrap wood or I'm cutting a bowl blank and I've got a little bit of scrap wood, I'll leave these out and I'll cut them out. This way I can do a project, one of these eggs. This happens to be landscape timber. But I can do this in 10 or 15 minutes, start to finish. I think Brian, if I'm maybe doing a demo or writing on something on this, but this is a fun project. You can do a bunch of these. Every time you do a different wood, turn a different egg with and throw it in the bowl. And when you can't have time to do a lot of turning, you do one of these.
So I'm going to show you something that I did.
Okay, then I have.
It's something similar to that, but these pebbles from rivers that.
Yes.
That I love, like these piles of pebbles. So I did.
Oh, good. Yes.
It's something similar, right? So
exactly.
Different pebbles with different woods, and I did a pile.
Mm-hmm.
And I just blew the pile because they couldn't stay.
Yeah, but that's something fun to do, and it doesn't take a lot of.
And you can have it like in the books and something like this. And
it gives you something to do quick on those days that you can't spend a lot of time in the shop. It's cool. Then here's one of I lost myself again. I don't know. Oh, there. It's one of my chalice bowls on a piece of driftwood. A friend of mine happened to see one, and she said, "Oh, I like that," so I made it so that my wife can give it to her for her birthday. This is it's another one of those demos that we had done, and I finally finished it up. It's a piece of mahogany with the bark on it, and I had the bark actually came off. And I very carefully used Gorilla Glue, not the foaming Gorilla Glue, but the unfoaming. And I kept just, every time I would turn or work on it and it started to come loose, I would just put a little more glue on there, and it stayed on real nice. So that's what I got.
Thank you.
I've got some here, Ralph.
All right.
We talked, if you want to talk about the rub-on poly finish. Can you see this? Can you see me now?
Yeah, hold it up a little higher. That way, yeah, good. We see that, not you.
Okay, good. That's even better. But I don't see, are you spotlighted me or not?
Well, you're on speaker view, so on my computer, you're taking up the whole screen.
Okay, I don't see it. Now, what this is Joe Self. I got this from Joe Self. What he does on his wipe on poly, he'll put 3 coats of wipe on poly. Okay, and after that, he'll use spray poly. Okay, gloss usually is what he uses. He keeps it on the lathe, And after he sprays the first coat on, and he lets it spin, you know, and that's why you won't see any run marks in here. You don't
Now,
see any run marks because he's
with your
spinning it
wipe on, are you cutting that down with mineral spirits?
Yes, yes.
At like 50%?
Yep, it's like a wipe on. If I take the wipe on poly, then I add another little bit of mineral spirits to it.
Yeah, but how much are you cutting it with the spirits?
Let's see, if I got a mason jar, I'll maybe put another quarter or less.
Oh, so you're not cutting it 50-50?
No, it's because it's already 50-50. I buy the 50-50 wipe on poly.
What?
I find that their mixture works better than me trying to do it 50-50.
50-50 wipe on.
Joe does also.
Where the hell do you get that?
I buy the wipe on poly at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And spirits. I take the wipe on poly and I pour it into a mason jar. Let's say 3/4 full.
Yeah.
Then I'll add some mineral spirits to that. The reason for the mason jar is it seals it and doesn't get hard.
Right.
Yeah. But so do that. And then the sandpaper, the key is to wet sand it between every coat. Now, Ralph told me, why would you want to put water on something that you're trying to get rid of water? Well, since you've got poly on it already, you know, the water doesn't take more than a few minutes to dry.
Yeah, wet sand it with mineral spirits.
Sand it with mineral spirits. That's a secret Jack Shelton used to do.
Yeah, I've done that too, but yeah, I guess you can do that. But either way, either way it works. And that's where Joe gets his finish. But after a while, they keep asking him, you know, the first time he told me, I didn't catch or he didn't say that he used wet sandpaper in between, or sandpaper, wet sandpaper, mineral spirits.
Right.
After that, I didn't catch that he thinned down his wipe on poly a little more too. But it's just one thing you got to ask questions, because the guys that have been doing it for so long, they just tell you how they do it and they forgot a step that they used, you know.
You don't think that's on purpose, do you?
I've got this piece from Danny way up back. It's tropical almond. And I usually don't turn tropical almond because I don't know if you can really see it, but it's got some decent features in it. The inside looked pretty decent. And what I did with this, what I tried on this is, back when they had the show in Raleigh, I bought some Yorkshire grit. So what I did is I put some boiled linseed oil, with half mineral spirits, a little cap full of Japan dryer to make the boiled linseed oil dry a little faster instead of waiting for 2-3 weeks. I put that on. Then I used the Yorkshire grit. And again, the only reason I used it is because I bought it from the show and I watched how they did a demo. It looked great. So there's different types of Yorkshire grit. There's one that's in a black can, black plastic container. And that's like sanding up to 800 grit. So you sand the bowl to about 220 or 320. Then you use the Yorkshire grit. That brings it to like an 800. And then they also make a microfine that works great on acrylics. Then you put the microfine on it, and that's like 12,000 grit. So that really, by using that, I don't use the micro pads a lot with acrylics. But I wanted to try it. Then you put wax over it, and it's got a nice finish to it. It's like the finishes you have, Ralph. It's not real shiny. It's, you know, it's got that nice feel to it.
Right.
And one last bowl. I showed this to everyone earlier. This is it's camphor, and I had 2 grooves in it, and I put that milliput in here. It's a 2-step epoxy, and it's pretty easy to fit into the grooves and to sand and turn. And I did the same thing here. I used the boiled linseed oil, mineral spirits, and Japan dryer. And the reason for the boiled linseed oil, it makes the grain stand out. So I use that, then I use the Yorkshire grit again and wax. So this is the first time I've tried a couple bowls that are just wax and not poly. And another thing too, with this one, since it was camphor, you know how sometimes camphor on the bottom, you know, gets a little grainy, get a little breakout? Well, I tried Cindy Droza trick. And what she does is when she gets this breakout, she'll take CA glue and rub it on. I'd rub it on with a paper towel, and it fills in those holes. So when you feel the bottom, it's smooth. It's not rough because it's got little pinholes in there. That worked out pretty good. And that's that.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I think
Well,
I heard you had a hand in this, Paula, with the tropical almond.
I believe I still have a couple of pieces here.
It was nice to turn. I usually stay away from it because it looks so pretty, so nice when you cut it down because there's yellows and blues and reds in it. But it all goes away and turns this brownish color, which isn't too bad.
Make it the trifecta of David's. I'm going to go. In honor of tonight's session is a natural edge that I did in oak.
Oh.
And it's about a 5-inch opening here, so getting in there was tough. But it's got a concave, unlike Ralph's, which was a straight edge from the lip down. It's got a concave to the inside, so it's got natural edge, and the whole edge started to come off. So I went around the whole edge with CA glue to keep most of the bark there. Just a little piece is missing there. So that's
Did you spray it with anything first before you put the CA glue on so it wouldn't stain?
No, I did not.
Let's try sanding sealer or just lacquer. Spray that around and then put the CA glue in there, and that stops the staining of the CA glue.
Okay. It gives it a nice, I think it gives it a nice kind of detail to the edge, right where the bark meets the bowl itself.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is if somebody do put on a little bit and it runs, if you don't get it right away, then you'll see that stain.
Right. Then I
good. Looks good.
Working with listening to David's, I tried my hand at eggs. This is a piece of nip, so the pith was there, so I filled it with some crushed stones. So it looks like it's got a little bit of eyes. This is a piece of oak, and this is a piece, Mike Chrysler might recognize this one. This is a piece of a bedpost. So it's four-sided or 4-joint pieces. My last one is a mahogany bowl.
Nice. What finish is that?
This is Minwax, paste wax.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. On the natural edge, I use poly, 1 coat of poly, wipe on poly. That's all I got for now.
Yeah. That Minwax, Ralph, that you said that you used to get at Home Depot, they have it at Lowe's for $8 or $9.
Yeah, I know. They Home Depot quit selling Minwax brand, and now Lowe's sells it. So.
Right.
Okay, I got something there. I got this little mahogany bowl. A little some little red dye on it.
All right.
Okay. And made this other mahogany bowl. Started out making a funnel, so kind of measured twice. So I put this contrasting wood insert in it, a decorative wood insert, and then a little dye on the side. And you might not be there. You can see a little bit of the texture. I used leather stamping tools to put some texture on the side. So. And then also I did some eggs. You know, Easter's coming up, so made some eggs. This is crabwood.
Crabwood.
Yeah, and in the next newsletter, I made up this little chart on how to make a chicken egg, so that be included in the next newsletter. Because on the internet, there's lots of instruction on how to make eggs, but not to the exact size. Certainly, you turn the short end and the long end, but to get the chicken egg size, that's a little bit more elusive as far as the exact dimensions. So I tracked it down and wrote up this little sheet that we'll include in the next newsletter. That so give you exact dimensions on where to do it. So for your small, medium, large, and jumbo eggs. So that's all I have.